About to cover a lot of exposition here. So if you don't have much time, it's going to take about 20-25 minutes. You should probably just pull into the parking lot across the street from work to finish watching it. Come in late, say something happened, but there's a lot going on, and it's a bunch of good stuff. I mean, you're sitting there watching, you're going, this better be good. Well, of course, you have every expectation. Look at me. You have every right. You don't know. But, lot of exposition. Look, see, I got this fucking box with shit. With my medals and I'm emptying it gradually. This thing, there's a lot of old army stuff in there, just hanging around. And in there I found my letter to Congressman. I wrote a letter to the Congressman. But don't forget, it doesn't end there. That letter was in there. I read it a couple days ago in one of the readings, Judas readings, I think is the playlist. I'm going to start putting in stuff that I read from a bunch of people and me. You know, you can do what you want. If you're sitting on the toilet long enough, it's very hypnotic. It'll help do whatever you need to do. Sometimes it could scare the shit out of you. Sometimes you laugh your ass off. At least you're on a toilet when it happens, right? And I did that thing on Congressman. I'm not going to say his name. I did it already. Bob Davis. It was in that one a couple days ago about growing old, lonely, and homeless. And the funny thing about that, it was right there in there. Yesterday, I did one on high school students fighting for justice. And when I was talking about that, it made me realize that these kids are not even old enough to vote. They're making a big noise. They're getting newspaper recognition. They're probably going to go into politics and be the same prick that screwed us over 180 years ago. You know, nothing ever changes. They just keep passing it on to the people that nobody cares about, that say, I'm going to tell you. I played football. I did. But there's that, and that letter to the congressman that I wrote, and I realized after watching one yesterday, I'm like, this guy, you know, he did reply to that letter I wrote to him, and it said, no, sorry, nothing I can do about it. Did everything we could. And I was like, huh. And I realized it was because I was in the military. As a military citizen, you cannot fight the military structure. And why would a congressman listen, especially if you're writing from a getting ready to go into a war where we're in deployment, you know? Why would he even bother trying? You're not likely to live. That means you're not a vote. Same as these kids fighting for justice. They're not worthy of a vote. You know, why would you even care and try? And, you know, if a soldier writing from a situation doesn't make it back, he doesn't matter in the polls. He doesn't even need to try. I'm not saying he didn't, but I got a letter, said couldn't do anything about it. And realizing that the military, fighting the military type of thing, after I got out, I said, well, okay. I guess you have to be a civilian to fight the system, the military system. And so that's when I got back, and we wrote letters. And this time I was with Sergeant First Class Elliott, my recruiter. He really did support me, and he did the work. We put this together, and he said, send it from the president all the way down. We did. We sent a letter, a file, a case, all the way from the President of the United States, the guy that was my boss over there, sent it to him, all the way down to the congressman, and everyone in between. 3 weeks after that letter was sent, I got woke up in the morning. This is the part I left out. I got woke up in the morning, phone ringing my mother, 8:30 in the morning. I was out of the Army. I was sleeping. And she said, telephone. I'm like, I get up, what the, And they're like, Secretary of the Army calling from Alexandria, Virginia. I'm like, what? Yeah, they were one of the people in that little list of people we sent shit to, me and Elliot. And this was 3 weeks after we sent. The 3 weeks, it was, yeah. Let's not get into all that. But the person on the other end of the line says, we've studied your case, and we will have your money in your account within 3 weeks. I said, wow. It worked. I got my $25,200. And it's all in there. And then after that, I got a letter from Congressman Bob Davis saying, hey, we got your money. I'm like, you didn't do that, I did that. But I'm wrong to say that, I realize now. I was like, he may have been part of the reason. He may have worked on it the first time, and he worked on it the second time. And they noticed that there was somebody coming. And so there, I got my money. All the threats I said about being a homeless guy, raping and murdering in Detroit and all that stuff, I got my $25,200 for my college, and I used it all up. And look at me now. I'm on the outskirts of a metropolitan city. And who knows which way things could go. But I'm not lying in a ditch and killing people. Go Army. So I find that in there, and then I look deeper. I'm going through this box, compiling things, getting rid of things, and I find this. That's all in there. I needed to say that thing. I needed to have a denouement. I needed you to have a follow-up story to the idea that it sounds ridiculous in that letter. Wow, I watched that thing. I'm like, that's scathing and almost threatening. It's totally insane. And, yeah, siete. He agrees. Siete? Yeah. Siete. You should have picked him up, but right now all my wounds are healing. But the letter worked. Somehow it worked. I made a difference. I've done that several times. I'm getting old. But going through there, I find this. And there's a video I did the one time about me being in the Ukraine and being held back and forth. It was a very long story, so I never got to all of it. But the thing is, the first time we tried to get back out on the train, slide back out, they just dumped us in. They wouldn't let us out. So we were wandering around town for a couple days. tried to get back out. And when we got to the border, passport, they took our passports to look at them. And there was a guy who was about this tall, and he was looking up at me. And he had these gold teeth, and they were all gold. And his breath just reeked. Like, my teeth are gold, why bother brushing? Something like that. And he's just in there, and he was just so happy to fucking kick our ass back into the Ukraine. In the U.S., if they don't want you here, they kick your ass out if you don't belong. But they say, you sply. That's what they ended up saying about us. So they kick us back in and spend another couple days wandering around. And we tried different things. We were about ready to steal a car, tie up a family, steal their car, and make a run for the border like we were getting to Taco Bell. But there at the one point, after sleeping in the parks and everything else, decided it's time to go see somebody. And so we went to government. I mean, we'd been dealing with government at the Border Patrol, but they just kept throwing us back in. We went to try and get a visa. And that's when they took us into custody, and they took us to the cinder block building, or the military compound, like 100 miles, probably 50 miles an hour through about a 15-mile-an-hour zone. We were blowing through people, and they took us and went through these gates, put us in this military fucking facility compound in a cinder block room, and they were threatening us and saying, you sply. We were like the guys that are going to be, they're just hiking in Iraq. That's what they thought of us. And I was just like, I'm trying to get to fucking Romania, full moon. But, so then they threatened and screaming and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, shut the fuck up. I'm not going back to the U.S. One guy calling for the embassy. And so at that point, they just decided they needed to get rid of us. There was a lot more talking. I got to tell you, I think I made a difference. I got us the fuck out of there without having to steal a car or kill a family or anything like that. In that room, we were about to disappear. Nobody even knew where the hell we were. They changed the program because of us after that. But because we told stories and laughed. But the minister of the Border Patrol, he wrote this letter to send us back. This is the letter. I think I may have talked about it before. But you see that? It's all Cyrillic. And it's got our names, birthdays, the three of us, and there's a stamp down there, and it's from the minister of the Border Patrol from Poland to Ukraine, which he's actually a person that's got some authority. He was just saying, he's like, and they had a translator saying, you give this letter to anybody if they give you trouble, and they will let you out. What's it say? They said it says to let you out. There were no questions. Just get the fuck out of the way is what it amounts to. And so when we were on the way out, that time I said, can we fly? Because I did not want to deal with the trains again. Didn't seem like it was a very logical way. They'd already fucking seen us once. And the guy's like, no, because they were smuggling us out. It was easier to send us on the train because that was his district or whatever the hell it is. They wanted us to get out that way. And so when we got to the border out of Lvov going into Poland, that same little guy came up and he looked at me and he just, I don't know why they always come to me. I must have a big mouth. And he looked at me and he said, oh. And he showed his gold teeth and he breathed. And he looked so happy. And without saying a word, I was sitting there in my seat because I wasn't getting up. And I reached over and I handed him the paper. And he just looked at me and he read this paper and he went, "Wah!" And he fucking got the fuck out of there. It works. It says, get these people the fuck out of here and don't fuck with them. He shut the fuck up and got out of there. Look at that. Yeah. So I find that in there. That's great. I'll probably make that a thumbnail for the video where I spent too much time talking about it. And then what do we have in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? My friend Bob Sadler put an interesting theory across to me, which I'm sure has been said before, but you know, it's his idea. That means it's natural. He said he thinks it was the unborn fetus. Unborn fetus. I think that's like a oxymoron of some sort. But you got all this stuff in the box, and I'm reading from papers and photo albums, and this is all photographic evidence. You know, there's been a pretty good time I've had. And I look at this and I pull out, look at that. When I was in China, I was in a band, and it was called Smokin Ghost. And this is in the newspaper. Look, if you look close enough, it's all Chinese. People read it to me. They said we were strong and all this. And this is us in the studio, or the guitar shop in the back, just doing rehearsal. The newspaper came to watch us. And, yeah. What I heard from a cop friend of mine was that we blocked off the whole street the one night with practice. There was a swarm of people blocking the whole damn street. Cars couldn't get through. The whole block was filled with people trying to get in to hear us fucking play. And we were just doing AC/DC and Guns N' Roses. But, you know, you think about it, it's something really different than what they're used to getting in China. Because China, when I was there, was like growing up in Gaylord, Michigan. At the radio stations, all they gave you were the 3 M's. Michael Bolton, Michael Jackson, and Madonna. You got this crap, this sappy-ass crap. That's all they got. So these people, there were old people. We were signing autographs. You know, how many autographs have I signed without ever one of them amounting to $1? And so, yeah, we were in the band. Look, it's funny. Every picture they have of me, there we are. We headlined this show. Every picture of me is screaming. And I had been invited to be in bands several times throughout the years, and every time it's like I can't do it. Either I knew I was going to be going somewhere, leaving soon, or I just didn't want to do what the people wanted to do. It was not style over substance for me. It was substance over style, believe it or not. And I'd just never been in one. And I ended up there, and through a fluke, I ended up in the band. And next thing you know, we're headlining a show. There were like 5 bands, and we were headlining because I'm white. And we were out back and backstage before the show. We even got to do an air check. I mean, you got to do the whole thing, man. Got to do the whole thing. And it was in the newspaper. We were on TV even. I couldn't walk down the street. I couldn't before, but now walking down the street, they go, I know that guy. And I'm like, because everybody watches the news in China, what else you gonna watch? Chinese opera? Well, they do that too. But got to have the whole band feeling. We had friends that were like roadies. They helped us carry stuff. We were out backstage while the bunk rock bands that were playing rock and roll love were playing and singing in Chinese out there, and we're up back, and there are ugly girls back there, and everybody's drinking and taking pictures, and had the whole band experience. And then go out, excuse me, do our thing, and there's a whole white table full of like white tablecloth, long table, like, you know, KFC hall stuff, tables up against each other, big long, and all these the politicians of the city, Zhengzhou, third largest drinking city in China, and I just happened to live there. I think we might have gone up second by the time I left. And they were all sitting there. They had their glasses of water in front of them with their jugs, pouring it, and they were in suits. And it was a university auditorium, the biggest place in the region, I guess. I don't know. And place was packed. And we're out there going, ah! And I had my military stuff because I was walking around the mountain in Tibet, and I happened to have an old camel stick in my field jacket that I'd taken. So I wore, because everybody loved the U.S. military, but they didn't like you on stage screaming at them, as it turned out. I put on my camouflage, and I had my shirt off, and I'm kicking my jacket, and I'm ah! And there's this girl standing right in front of this damn stage. I'm telling you, man, she's standing there in front of the stage, in front of the speaker, blasting out. And I'm going, I'm fucking going right at her, and she's standing there looking at me like this. She's going, but she couldn't leave. It's like a train wreck. That's how you make a difference. And these people, they just sat there so quietly, and then the politician sent somebody up and said I need to take my shirt off, put my shirt on, because I had my shirt off. They're not used to seeing hairy guys. I'm not very hairy, but I am hairy. I got hair on my arms, they don't. Not generally. And I said, no. We had one song left, and it was our original, called Fucking Little Whore. And they shut us down. Lights came on, unplugged everything. Next day we go by the guitar store. Master Chen sitting there in the room where you can see him with a politician, and the politician is just railing on him. Master Chen's going, and the guy left, and we went into Master Chen, and we said, hey, what's going on? He says, we can never play again. I said, what will happen if we do? And he says, I don't know. And he looked very serious and scared. And I said, well, banned in Yulin. Yeah. So we didn't get to play anymore. He never once played with us again. He was a great guitarist. He could pick up this stuff that's very difficult. And I think... And he'd come in the next day playing it. There's Master Chen over there. There's the guy, our bass player. His nickname was Yellow Man. That's what they called him. And there's Stanley from New Zealand. And there's me yelling again. You can't see tall man in the back. They called him long man because they confused long with tall, but I never corrected him. It looks good for the groupies if they call you long man. So yeah. So made the paper. That paper came out after we were banned. After they quit letting us, and Master Chen never did play with us again. We'd kind of jam and stuff and do things in the studio there, but never once again did he play at the same time we did. Too bad. And then after that, next time I was there, there's another paper that I was in. Look, Santa Claus was coming to town. That's Andy Russell over there. He was my boss. It's to my left. I guess it's probably to your right. I don't know. I'm in the middle, just sitting there all pallid and hung over like you wouldn't believe. There's Stanley sitting there grinning, and the little girl getting a little Christmas gift. That's what happens to guys that can't make it in the band. Next thing you know, they're teaching and having benefits for kids. What is this all because of? You see all these different places, all these different papers. I've seen the North Pole by mistake. It's what happens when you let a kid do what he wants.